Yeah, cheers for getting in touch, mate. It's been a long time coming in from my point of view.
Yeah, I literally, I'm as you know, like I'm so technophobic. I've been pretty transparent about that. But I saw an email that you'd sent me about 2 years ago. It's like, and only just found it the other day when I was like, oh my God, Jesus, yeah, I didn't even know how to get messages in Instagram. That's how bad I am.
No,
So
fair play.
I appreciate you reaching out, man, and it's good timing as well. So thanks for making time.
Yeah, I mean, how do you want to play the whole announcement thing?
Yeah.
Should we start with that or finish with that? It's up to you.
Yeah. Well, we could because this is, this would the announcement would have been made, right?
Yeah.
Mm. So yeah, we've announced to do this gig in the Scala on the 29th of October this year. And Yeah, it's just a really big deal for us because everyone's kind of all over the shop. The drummer Shaz is living in France at the moment. He's sort of involved in doing up a big house on the side of a cliff near Nice,
Wow.
doing a kind of mad project out there. So we hardly ever get to see Shaz these days. Pete is down in Ramsgate, in Kent, having a nice time by the seaside with his family. Kev's on the other side of London, south of the river. So it's like getting together. Is has always been like a bit of a tricky one, but because of this sort of 20-year anniversary coming up, we just thought, yeah, let's do something special. And So yeah, we were sort of umming and ahhing about what place to do it and what makes sense and stuff. And The Scala was suggested, and at first I thought it's quite big, but we've always loved it there. Actually, used to, when I was in a me and Pete, the keyboard player, and Shaz, the drummer, used to be in a band before called Future of Junior, and we used to rehearse at the Scala on that stage because we knew the guy who was like one of the main sound guys there. Used to run a little sound engineering tech course for young aspiring engineers. So we used to rehearse on that stage sometimes. Not didn't always sound the best, but yeah, we love it there. So it's going to be cool.
Yes. Yeah, 'cause you did one for, was it the 10-year anniversary as well?
Yeah, that was in Oslo. We did 2 nights there. That was wicked, man. I mean, I hadn't even been to that venue before, but it was perfect. Yeah, and just really just totally blew us away. We weren't expecting that level of interest so soon. It sold out very quickly, and it was just very special. Like both nights, it really. And we rehearsed quite well for it, so we were sounding good. And I've been continuing to play with bands, and I've got like a kind of cover band that I play in just with friends who used to be in other bands. My drummer used to be in the Kooks at one point, Chris, and we've been kind of still playing. I've been still kind of in the mix of playing and keeping my voice, in action as it were and stuff. So, like, all we got to do is just get together and relearn all the songs. Like first time around, I couldn't remember half the lyrics, and I ended up going on like lyrics.com and finding better lyrics than I'd written for half the songs. It was like, oh, actually, that sounds better than my own version. I'll probably just use what algorithm made that verse. I think I'll do that instead. Um, but yeah, it's a bit like muscle memory, isn't it? You kind of get there in the end.
Yeah, yeah. What covers do you do in your band then? Out of interest.
Yeah, we do Tears for Fears and Prince and just all kinds of stuff. We do a really good Britney Spears cover. We do Pink Floyd. We do we do Dancing Queen by ABBA. But it's cool because we've got like an accordion and violin player and drums and bass and lots of vocals. So we kind of have a rule that we have to like the song if it's going to be in the band. We don't play sort of standards or anything. But yeah, it's just a good laugh. But I haven't played. I mean, I just play acoustic. Like plug my acoustic in. So I haven't played a proper loud guitar for quite some time. So I'm really looking forward to getting that all sorted again, getting my angry Fender Twin out again. And we got my old guitar tech, Ollie. Big shout out to Ollie. I just found out yesterday that he's going to come and join us on our gig, stroke potential gigs, and we got our sound guy, John Cornfield, who did our first album. Like
Right, right.
he's going to come and do sound for us that night. So the guy who literally recorded and produced Civilian is going to be doing our sound in the Scala as well. So I love that.
Bass. Yeah, you mentioned the acoustic because there's some great acoustic versions of the songs that you've put out from Boy
Yeah,
Killed Boy.
thanks, man.
Was enjoying them today.
Yeah, there's one on my own, and we did that in a place called what is it called? Foal Studios, in the middle of the valleys in Wales. And I was kind of on my own there for a while. We're writing the rest of the second half of the album of Civilian. And this guy, Dave, who he used to be in Hawkwind, owns this little crazy little studio out there. And I was on my own. I was going a bit nocturnal. The rest of the boys sort of left me to it. So I'd run up and press record and then run down and then play the drums on a track and then run up and come down and play bass. And it's like a kid in a sweet shop, basically. But I was going a little bit wild. I was going a little bit mad. I was drinking a lot. But Dave popped in and I was halfway through recording this little version of On My Own. Was it maybe On My Own? I think I did, like acoustic picky style. And he came in and was like, I'm just checking up on you because, just making sure you're all right. I always like to make sure everyone's all right. It's just me, And anyway, we were talking about his life in Hawkwind and, how he got all the gear and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, he also said, I've got a plane. Do you like flying? And I was like, what do you mean, do I like flying? He's like, and he put his finger out the window and stuck his finger out the window of this tiny little studio. All this smoke billowed out as I was smoking a lot of the time. And he literally was like, yeah, it's going to be a good day. Do you want to go? Because I've been up all night recording on my own and was probably a bit drunk. But he basically was like, yeah, it's a good day for flying. Come on, man, let's take you out of here and, brush you down. And so literally next thing I know, we're driving in this old banger through these roads. And then we were wheeling out an aeroplane onto this runway. And he did some like sort of 10-4 rubber ducky type stuff, and then we were up in the sky, and he let me take over, and I was like doing it left and right, making the wingers go like this, and it's
wow. Proper rock and roll story.
Yeah, it was mad, yeah. But then I came home, and was like, the rest of the boys like, "What have you been up to? Have you got anything done?" And I was like, I've got this like acoustic version of On My Own, this picky version. They're like, all right. Any new stuff? I was like, no, because we were flying today. they're like, you twat. What are you talking about?
But yeah, let's, I suppose, get some context and everything. Like you mentioned, future junior, but I mean, where did you grow up out of interest? Like, where were your formative years?
Yeah, so me and Shaz and Pete knew each other from school days in Essex, at the end of the Central Line, Epping Forest, basically. And I was in a school band called Space Dog. It was like a grunge band, basically playing Pearl Jam covers and shit like that. Shaz was in another school, was in a posho school, and he was playing Britpop, but they were like really pretty boys in their band, and they basically just used to get all the birds to their gigs. So everyone knew very well if you went to a youth club gig, which was Shaz's band, then that's where all the birds are going to be, But if you wanted to, I like to think if you wanted to listen to some like really good music, you come to my band. But there was like the hardcore metal band. There was so many bands at the time. It was great. It was really thriving in that area. Eventually, me and Pete got in a band. The keyboard player, he was in the year above me in school. We started a kind of like mod, sort of psychedelic kind of mod band called Wurlitzer. And then it was like, eventually went off to university. We all been in various different bands then, and then kind of came back and sort of started getting back into each other's lives again. And then we got this sort of Future of Junior sort of project, and then we got really into that. Our bass player Jim was an old school friend of Shaz's as well, so it was like really tight, But we played all over London mainly. Like I had a little white transit van. I used to just drive us around all nights of the week. we we really, gave it everything we got. But eventually the sort of bass player left and went off to join another band. We were a bit heartbroken, didn't really kind of know what to do. Eventually me and Shaz were like, look, we've got to get something, we've got to do this again, like we've got to get out there. So we used to go out in Camden a lot of the time, Soho, and we'd be constantly asking, like, do you know any bass players? I'd meet people in a taxi rank and be like, do you know any bass players? I was so desperate at that point. Me and Shaz were in this party at Camden Nina's house, and me and Shaz raided her wardrobe. She had all these really lovely mod dresses that me and Shaz used to like dressing up in, and we sort of burst back into the room, and I was like mad. Just felt, I don't know, it was one of those nights in Camden, let's face it. But basically I was kind of shrieking out if anyone knew a bass player. And then there was Kev at the back of the room with his twin brother Dave, respect to Dave Chase out there. And basically Dave went, he plays the bass. And then Kev was like, oh God. But yeah, it was a pretty important night in the end. We met Kev, and then he came and joined us, and then very, very quickly after that, to be honest, because 3/4 of us were already, kind of match fit or whatever you'd want to call it. So then by the time we got these new songs that I'd already sort of had under my belt, and we rehearsed, and it wasn't really long until we were out gigging under this new name, Boy Kill Boy. To be honest, those new songs, I just kind of like, at that stage, I really didn't care if anyone liked them or not. I think in Future of Junior, I was almost like trying a bit too hard, perhaps. Like, there's like lots of fancy, clever things going on in the music, but and industry people were saying that, like, mate, you're all there, you look great, you fucking sound great, like you're brilliantly live, and but it's like the songs, man, like you need songs. I was like, I've got fucking tons of songs, what are you talking about? But it was like, basically they were talking about, songs that people might call a hit or something. And they're trying too hard, I think. And so with the Boy Kill Boy thing, I just said, I'm not doing any, I don't care, like one song's going to sound completely different to the next, I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to basically, only going to do what I want to do, what I like doing for me and for the band. And as long as we're all happy, then I'm not going to try and do things for anyone else anymore. And so the song kind of sounded wildly different. And on that first album, although there's a few songs that do follow the same kind of path, it was clear that we wanted to kind of carry on, not just sounding like an East London indie band. It's like we kind of were quite happy with having some songs that can be quite slow and almost a bit sentimental. We don't really mind that, and other songs that can be a bit chuggy and a bit almost like metally. Like we're just not really bothered. But yeah, it very quickly picked up, and so we did this gig in the Water Rats, and then there happened to be a really big agency there, and our management was there, and it was it all happened really quickly. So by the time we were then out there releasing our first single with Fierce Panda, for us it all felt like it was just the end of a long line of many years playing together. I mean, Future Junior was like 5 or 6 years or something, so it's like it was all, but so to some people it felt like it was an overnight thing, but for us, of course, it wasn't. I mean, some of us have been playing since we were literally kids. So but yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Like, as soon as you don't care, things start to happen. That was kind of the story, really. It's like, wow. All right, is this how it goes? And we're very lucky because we're very tight with our management, and then eventually the kind of the independent thing, like with Fierce Panda, which really loves Simon and those guys, and it was looking at, well, what are we going to do about the album? And eventually we kind of had this sort of slight bidding war between Atlantic and Universal, and that was very difficult to make that decision because Max Lassard was with Atlantic, and we were tight. He was a good guy, but it was, what can you say? It's like we were finally getting to have a big push behind us. And then when that big drive started happening, I think maybe that sort of had a double-edged sword to it, because it's like the indie band goes major, and then the NME was sort of suddenly maybe kind of going, oh, well, we were headlining the NME tour, but we also were like going a bit more mainstream as well. You could say, so it was like, I don't know, like it kind of it sort of it soured the milk for some people, probably. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, what do you think? Like the media looked at you a bit differently being on a major label.
Yeah, I think so. And I think like suddenly, like so kind of some of like the the behaviors from other bands maybe slightly changed as well, as we were sort of in the sort of, I don't know, like I remember we like we were kind of following guidance and advice a lot from management and things like that. But I mean, I remember like we'd be touring. We supported the Kooks, and we really loved the Kooks. They're such lovely guys. Like we had a lovely time with them in Europe, and but we had this like tour bus. It was, I mean, our tour manager made sure that we spent all that money on the best buses. We didn't know any different, but it was like this is like a traveling strip club this time, and it was unbelievable. But then the Kooks had their tour bus, and we loved their tour bus because it was just all like corduroy and just like really, really cozy, And I think we actually ended up swapping tour buses in the end. Like I think we ended up with their tour bus, and they ended up with ours, and everyone was kind of happy. But I think maybe some other bands that were properly doing that, continuing on the independent journey might have sort of seen us as a bit poncy or something. I don't know. Who knows?
No, it's interesting. Like, so was it like a subsidiary of a major that you signed? Was it Vertigo?
Yes, with Vertigo. Yeah, so Vertigo through Mercury with Universal.
Right, right.
But it
Similar
was,
to the Paddingtons, who, I know personally kind of thing have been on the pod a lot. It's
yeah, no,
interesting. Like they got this kind of the same offer. It's like you can't really turn it down.
yeah. I think it's really is hard. I mean, you kind of think, well, look, if you're given this opportunity to have this big push behind things, it's hard to turn it down. I mean, you know, I really loved all. I love all sorts of stuff, and a lot of the stuff when I was growing up was sort of bands like Pavement and Sonic Youth, and you know, Dinosaur Jr. and that whole Lollapalooza scene. When I was really fascinated with when I was a little boy growing up. So for me, it wasn't like I was aspiring to sort of go for some sort of shiny pop journey in my life whatsoever. But it happened to be at the time that music was quite fashionable. So therefore major labels were wanting to be a part of it. And, it's hard to say no to really when, the next thing you know, you're out in America and like Jay-Z's popping into the meeting because he's just signed with Def Jam and he's popping in and saying hello. And you're just like, fuck me, this is crazy. I mean, I like just got some wild stories from America. I mean, like one of the nights I just kind of thought this is absolutely bananas. Was like we were recording with Dave Sardi and doing our second album, and we're in like Hollywood, and Prince was playing in the Roosevelt Hotel. He was doing some private gig, and like it was before he did his big run of like little mini shows in London and all around the place. So it was still like, what, he's playing in a foyer in the hotel. It was like, yeah, I mean, obviously he's got a stage set up and stuff. But Dave Sardi was like, there's no way I can get you tickets for that. Like, it's $5,000. And that's even then you need to know someone. It was some charity thing Prince was doing. I was a huge Prince fan. Me and Shaz turned up at about 2 in the morning. We'd been out that night. And I was in bed and I phoned Shaz and was like, to his room above the 101 cafe. I was like, Shaz, we're going to this Prince thing. I'm gonna get us in, and if we don't, then I'll pay for the taxi there and back. And Shaz was like, okay, like we got in this taxi. We turned up outside the Roosevelt Hotel. There was his security. There was like the hotel, the crew that worked there, and then there was Prince's security. And I managed to like blag it in to blag us in. Basically, I said some cheesy line to like his top security, like, that 99% of the people in there probably know 1% of his music. Me out here, blah, 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 probably know 99, And anyway, the guy was like, oh, Jesus, you're so cheesy. You just get in. And we went in and it was just like bananas because Prince was playing and it was now about 2:30 in the morning, but he was doing his famous still playing thing. But a lot of people had gone home. So there's about 20 people just dispersed in this dance floor, like going crazy. And there was Prince and his band. There was no stage. It was all on the ground floor. So I was just like jaw dropped. But then anyway, he kind of finished his show and then was up on the balcony and was sort of like had his security and was sort of popping girls out of the crowd to kind of go and join him at his like after party. We were ushered out the back. We were quite drunk by this point, me and Shaz, and we're in the queue, which I thought was a taxi queue. It turns out it was a valet queue. Not that we really knew the difference, but and I heard this guy next to me going, "Listen, man, like we go to this party or we go to that party. One's going to be good, the other one's going to be shit. It really doesn't matter, you know." And I just didn't even look up. I was like, I totally agree with you, man. Just like one's going to be all right, and then you don't even know, do you? Until you get there, you just don't even know. So then this guy, like, I felt someone put these keys in my hand, and I looked up, and it's Patrick Swayze had just put his car keys in my hand. It was like, mine's the black RV over there. Just get yourself in there, and I'll see you in a minute. So me and Shaz were like, what? So we were going around the car park, like bleeping this thing, you know, to try and get in the back. We jumped in the back of his boot like a couple of old Labradors and sort of shut the door behind us. There had all this fishing tackle in there. And anyway, he turned up and his brother was driving. So there's Patrick in the front with his brother, and then this back seat full of girls, and me and Shaz, like these two little dogs in the back, passing the keys through the little grill thing. And we're driving up through the hills to this after party. Me and Shaz just couldn't quite believe it was all happening, you know. And so Patrick turned around to these girls in the back and was like, "So girls, how do you know, like, these two British guys?" And they were like, "Oh my God, they're not with us." And it was like, "Get them out, get them out." And anyway, no, he's like, "You guys seem cool, like you guys in a band or something." We're like, yeah, you know. He was like, "No, you can come with me." And it was really weird. We pulled over on this kind of side view that looked out over the whole of LA. And he opened up the boot and walked me and Shaz, like one arm over both of us, and walked us to the edge of this cliff. And I swear I thought like he was going to chuck us off the cliff or something really weird like that. And he basically said, he goes, "Can I share something with you?" He's like, "When I got my first real acting job, I came up here and I said, 'Hollywood, your ass is mine.'" Right. And he looked at me and Shaz, and we were like looking at each other in front of his chest, kind of going, "What the fuck?" And he was like, and when I got my real big acting job, I came up here and I said, "Hollywood," and he said, "LA, I've got you by the balls, man." And we were like, "Yeah." and he was like, "You got anywhere like that where you just come to, where you just got to come and take stock?" And I was like, "I've got this caravan that we go to down in Devon once a year, and it's really special." He was like, "Exactly, man. Wherever it is, you just sometimes got to look out and you got to think about where your life is. You know what I mean?" And Shaz was like, "Can we go to the party now, please?" Yeah, sorry, man. Anyway, we jumped in the back of the car. We turned up at this party, and then, like, you know, it wasn't long so we were split up when we all got into this house party. And this owner of the party saw me walking around, not really knowing anyone, with you know, and basically pinned me up against the wall, and like said, basically, "I'm going to kick your fucking head." And like, "What the hell are you doing in this house? You don't know anyone." And I said, "I'm here with a friend. I don't know where he's gone, but I came in with my friend." And he was like, "I don't give a shit," you know. And he put my hand up behind my back and slammed me up against the wall, like, you know, like a cop would do or something. And I was like, "I'm in real trouble here." And then suddenly, guess who turned up? The Sways.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Suddenly Patrick like bowled in and was like, "Excuse me, is there a problem here? You know, he's one of my guys, he's one of my friends. What are you doing?" And the guy was like, "Oh, I'm really sorry, let me get you a drink." And you know, it was like, oh man. And you know, the night went on and on and on. Eventually we turned up at the studio the next day, having not slept. And you know, Dave Sidey was like, "Where the fuck have you been?" You know, it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we haven't slept. And it was just like, well, you know, we went to, it started off with the Prince thing, and yeah, but it was, you know, it's kind of mad, but I mean, that's a crazy place anyway, but it was a bit of a ticket to ride, you know. Sometimes we look back and kind of go, did that, like, you know, when we did that actually happen, or am I kind of making that up? Is that sort of my brain gone a bit weird in time, you know? Sometimes we have to remind each other.
No, that's it, yeah. Was that kind of like peak of the madness type thing?
Yeah. I mean, like, I guess you kind of get invited to places, you know, if you're considered to be talked about, and especially in Hollywood, if you're new in town. Like, we got invited to Scarlett Johansson's Leaving Do. She's going off to make an album somewhere, and it was like TV on the radio. We're in there. It was at the like Chateau Marmont or something like that. It was some fancy hotel, and we walked in and we were completely out of our depth because everyone was really famous and really cool. But by the end of the night, I drank loads of this mushroom tea, and it was just left with me and Shaz and Scarlett and Ryan Reynolds, and that was it, just the four of us. But the thing is, I said to her, I was like, "How much tea have you meant to have to drink? Like, how much have you meant to have this stuff? You know?" Because I was starting to feel a bit wobbly. And she was like, "Oh, I don't know. Like my friend Daniel made it, or whatever. He always makes it, you know. But like, I don't know, maybe like a cup or something. How many have you had?" And I was like, "I think I've had about five cups." And I just remember this look of like Scarlett and Ryan looking at each other, and then looking at me with this seriously pitiful like, "Oh God, are you all right?" And then, you know, like suddenly I had like the worst, you know, kind of whitey. I suddenly had to, Shaz kind of had to quickly escort me out of there before it got embarrassing. But yeah, but you know, it's just one of those things, like just say yes to everything, and like sort of strange things will follow. You know, there you go.
Yeah, yeah. Quality, mate, yeah. I suppose like just going back a bit then, like you mentioned the NME tours and stuff. Did you feel like part of an indie scene back in the UK, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, we were very much, very much part of the indie club scene. I mean, me and Shaz kind of spent most of our time picking up £1 flyers from the floor and making full use of them on weeknights. But and so we kind of were already quite embedded into, you know, the scene or the East London scene, whatever you want to call it. Um, but then I guess with the like NME tour and stuff, we were maybe like recognizing that there was this sort of like newer, younger sort of energy coming through. I mean, we were with like the Automatic on one of the tours, and Forward Russia and stuff. And I mean, we really loved all those guys, and we were quite excited to be like sharing like adventures with them. I think like in time we've sort of discovered that maybe there was some complications in terms of like how maybe that was a different journey for them, different journey kind of for us at the time. But yeah, but there was like, you know, like the Automatic with their like mega hit, you know, and you know, like we hadn't had like a mega hit by at that stage, so so that was like one of those sort of things of like who should be headlining this, you know, like, and who should be doing what. And but you know, we didn't really take things too seriously. We certainly didn't. I hope we didn't really kind of parade around like we owned the place. We were always quite sort of thankful for what we were doing. And I think maybe because we'd been so in bands for so many years since we were growing up, mostly together. But you know, when we were having, you know, really cool opportunities, we were really making sure that we enjoyed them rather than, you know, kind of being acting like, you know, self-entitled or something with it. You know what I mean?
No, that's interesting, yeah, because like some bands come on and they say, you know, one thing they'd change is maybe just enjoying it more, the whole thing. But you're saying you're doing that at the time anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, yeah, sometimes I felt a bit like an imposter, you know, like I was more like a character from Dumb and Dumber than a rock and roll star. You know what I mean? I was just so like, this is fucking amazing. And to be honest with you, like to the detriment of maybe those around me, I like, and my label was always kind of having a go at me for being too nice, and you know, you're a real this and you're a real that, and you should start acting more like you are rather than pretending that you're really nice. Like it doesn't get you anywhere. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you know, but I guess, you know, for me, it's like I didn't see it. Didn't even though like I love a rock and roll attitude, but for me, it didn't really sit right. For, you know, to be sort of pretending to do that kind of stuff. Um, I'm sure it's more tasty and the receiving end to give it the large one and all the rest of it. But um, yeah, apparently he has to say thank you too much at the end of songs. You know what I mean?
All
Well,
right.
you don't have to say thank you. They're here to see you. That is that, you know, that is them showing their thanks to you by being there. You don't have to say thank you at the end of your song. You know, they say thank you, not you. And I was like, nah, that's bullshit. You
Well,
know.
it's best to be authentic anyway, innit? You don't want to be playing a character all the time.
Yeah, because then when it's over, what have you done? You've just played some like weird little pantomime role. But you
Yeah.
know, having said that, you know, like when I was a kid growing up, it was like for me, it was like Adam Ant, you know, and Prince and all these like wonderfully weird characters. And You know, when I look back on those old interviews, I think Adamant was really himself. Like even when it's on like these kids' TV programs, like he was really, like, he seemed really himself, but he was very cool as well. Like I hope that I was not a complete douchebag, but yeah, you know, try to be authentic as much as possible in these situations.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you mentioned hits. I mean, he did well in terms of the charts. He got on top of the pops and stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, that was, yeah. I mean, that was like that was really amazing because at the time, you know, when you're going to like sort of family dues and Christmas, and your grandma's like, "So how's the band?" You know, you're like, "Yeah, it's good." You know, you got this. You just got signed to this thing called Fierce Panda, and so then the next thing you speak to, like, "How's the Fierce Pandas? Your band?" And you're like, "No, no, it's not cool." You know, and so then it was like, oh, you know, you've got to watch some of the pops. We're going to be on, you know, on Thursday night or something, and it was just, yeah, I mean, like that was wonderful, you know. I mean, it was really funny, and again, like if you look at that YouTube footage, I'm smiling my ass off. And was told off for smiling too much. It's like, what are you doing, man? I was like, fucking, I was loving it, mate. You know, but yeah, again, maybe I could have been a bit cooler. Who knows?
And then in terms of yeah, going into recording the album, was it quite? Did
Mm.
you know early on like the songs that were going to go on it? Did you have them ready?
Yeah, I mean, like Susie was obviously like that was, you know, one of the big songs that was already going out with Fierce Panda. So that was like we knew that that had probably bigger legs than it was at the time. Although Zane Lowe really kind of got into it and lifted us up on XFM at the time with that, which would have been a nice springboard into being able to then record it in the Sawmills studios, you know, down there in Cornwall with John Cornfield, and you know where some of our heroes like Oasis and Supergrass and stuff like that would have done their recordings. So for us, it was like this is like the dream. You know what I mean? I hate to say those cheesy words, but and John Cornfield, one absolutely lovely bloke. Like just couldn't have had someone better working with us. It just fits so well. And yeah, you know, like just really immersed, you know, down there because there's nothing else to do. You know, I mean, there's you can walk down a train track to the local pub, or you can get a boat down. I mean, I remember once we were coming back from we'd done some really wicked stuff that day, and we thought, let's go to the pub. So the little one of the guys who worked there was really lovely. I can't remember his name now, bless him, but he drove us down on the little tugboat, and we were getting so much into playing darts with the locals, completely smashing us, by the way, but like, you know, enjoying the local ales and all that stuff. And then he was like, we've really got to go because of the tide's going out. We're like, don't worry about it, we're fine. When we got to the end, I had to jump out the boat and like drag the boat in up to the back up to the jetty, and my like trousers and my shoes came off. I came out, I was just covered in mud, you know, and it was a real laugh. But yeah, no, I mean, you know, it was a really big bonding experience for us. But more importantly, you know, it just sounded so great. It sounded so great coming from that studio. Um, and what an absolute privilege it was, you know, to be able to do something in that place with that team. And it really, yeah, it really did sort of. It was a very special time. Yeah, yeah. So it was lovely. Sawmills,
Had,
yeah,
it, had he worked with Razorlight before? Is that right? John Cornfield.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's right. Um, yeah, I mean, there was some really amazing things, and you know, but he kind of really treated it like our own project. Like he didn't often talk about other things. When we were asking him about Muse or various different things that he'd been connected with, he's very happy to talk about it. But no, he really like dedicated everything to us, and it was an absolute sweetheart. And I kept in touch with him. I'd sometimes would pop down when I was in that part of the world, and I'd walk down the train tracks and go and see him. Um, but yeah, he's not there anymore. Like, you know, he's doing different things. But yeah, that was really, really like a great privilege being able to record in Sawmills. Um, yeah, I mean, like all of those studios. I mean, quite often I was left on my own to do the writing. I remember I was in a studio down in Bude doing some writing on my own for the second album. And recording it, and again, like I just kind of found myself going nocturnal again, and just going slightly mad, you know, like recording all these songs on my own, and then eventually the boys would come. I seem to remember like the story in that studio was like the guy from Nine Black Alps had also had a similar experience to me, but like a year before or a couple of years before or something, and he was on his own there, and he like went a little bit nuts, like I was starting to go basically. And I probably won't say the story about him because it's not really very fair, but it was a bit like I was a bit haunted by it. It was just like maybe I need to get the boys back before I start going too crazy down here. So yeah, the boys came back, and it is weird though because it's like I kind of written these songs, and I'm sitting there and I'm playing them to them in the studio, and I'm kind of waiting to see if they like them or not, and if they like them, then we carry on and we tune them up a bit, and make them more boy kill boy, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned Nine Black Alps. I was reading that you replaced someone on NME tour or something at one point.
Yeah, I think that was true. Yeah, one of the early tours we did with the NME stuff, that was we got a very fortunate last minute call that something had happened. I think one of them had an injury or got very ill or something, and like they had to pull out for a couple of days. So that's right. Yeah, we were playing with the Rakes, Maximo Park. So it was quite a big deal for us because at the time we were just kind of the name was getting around, and Nine Black Alps would have definitely been a more established level at the time. So we were very, very, appreciative that that was an opportunity that we had, and must have been hard for those guys. I didn't ever know the Nine Black Alps guys, but I'm sure we would have been very fond of them, and I it must have been probably really difficult for them because it was a really good tour, But yeah, it was to our fortune that we got to have a few dates and got to meet the some of those guys from the other bands, and we kind of made in touch with them. Sometimes you go to like CMJ festival or like New York sort of festivals, all the Brits are over there, a bit like South by Southwest in Texas or whatever, and you'd see like bump into Alan from like the Rakes. I never forget, it's like walking down some sort of massive road in New York, and we're on our way to meet a record exec or something, and Alan, it is Alan, right? The singer from the Rakes. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
his name? And like he walked past us, and I'm sure he had these lovely little like this, like just a little stripy t-shirt, a bit baggy on him, like nice little pair of shorts, pair of flip flops, and a Tesco's bag. It's a Tesco's bag, and he just come to do some laundry, like or something like that. And we were like, "Hi, Alan." And we all had our like wanky, like probably gone off to see the record label and had our like, fancy clothes on or something. I don't know. And he was just like, "Hi." And we were like, "Oh God, we just suddenly look like a right bunch of idiots." He looks well cool, Probably says a lot, to be honest, about us. I don't know, but there you go.
But what about in terms of like building momentum with like a fan base and stuff? Was that quite organic and stuff at the time?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously, kind of didn't have Facebook or anything like that, but it was yeah, MySpace was the thing, wasn't it? And I don't think we had mastered how to use it. I think at that stage it was considered to be quite normal to start interacting a lot personally, and which now is 100% compulsory, in anyone's musical journey by the looks of it. But it's like at the time I was thinking, oh no, you got to have like mystique, and I don't want to know what my singers had for breakfast type stuff. But we did have a good MySpace following, and we did have good advice at the time on how to use it and stuff, and that was for our benefit. And yeah, like I think to be honest with you, man, like we had a sort of mixture of like interest. We sort of almost had a bit of a kind of emo crossover, like maybe the style that we're putting out might have, I think Civil Sin was one of the first big singles, and that had a sort of slightly kind of gothy kind of vibe about it, maybe, I don't know, and therefore, and yeah, so there was like a kind of emo-y contingency, and then there was also like the kind of Brit poppy sort of background, the kind of indie roots that we thought that we were probably quite obviously displaying. maybe not. And then there was this like notion that we're like, actually we're not just like, we're not really just an East London cool trendy band. It's like, actually we're kind of, you know, we want to be considered bigger than that. So when it came to like the artwork, you know, we it was deliberate choices to be sort of steering away from that sketchy kind of like street urchin vibe. It was like, no, let's make something really, really iconic and powerful and bold and this, that, and the other. You know, I think if I had have probably been left to my own devices, I would have just followed suit with a lot of other stuff around me, to be honest. And there you go. Again, that's probably where having access to different professionals around you maybe can be part of your journey as much as anything else, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting you mentioned the artwork because I had Scott Jones on recently. If you know
Yeah,
Scott, and he picked one of your songs to play on the radio show that we did, and
really.
he
Oh,
said that you played one of your first gigs at his wife's flat or something. Is that
yeah,
right?
yeah. Oh my God, that was amazing. Yeah, yeah. It was a live eight themed party, and it was we'd only just got together like boy cool boy with Kev, and you know it was lovely because then we met all Kev's mates as well as our own, you know, that Scott being one of them, and Louise and stuff. Yeah, and yeah, Kev was dressed as someone from Dire Straits. I think I was dressed as Brian May, I think, or something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, but we played in the front room, and we had a lot of our very early Vocal Boy stuff, which was quite a lot more punky and scrappy. We ended up on like B sides, like a song called Number One and things like that, like sort of B sides. But we did a brilliant version of at Christmas time, there's no need to be afraid. And there was like crowd surfing and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, just like, yeah, we had a good time. And Scott's a very special man. Were you talking to him about the Arctic Monkeys artwork and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, yeah. Get on
Cool.
of like he's got an exhibition going in at the minute in Liverpool,
That's
so you
it,
got
man.
me involved with that, which is great.
That's cool, man. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, when the album comes out, then and like it charts well again, are you and the label happy with that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I was never, and again, to the detriment of our own journey, probably. But I just didn't have this belief or drive that we were going to be like the biggest band in the world. I mean, like I really understand that that can be very good for you to have that kind of ego drive behind you. I just, if anything, was probably too self-deprecating and was a bit too like imposter syndromey, you know. Uh, but so for me to have achieved these little milestones, like you know, getting signed in America into Def Jam and touring and la la la, playing with Echo and the Bunnymen and becoming friends with Ian, like all these things to me were just like absolute game changers and were enough, you know. So I don't know where I still don't even know what whether our albums was it something like in the top 20. I think, I mean, I hope it
Well,
was,
it says
but
it was 16 in the UK and 11 in America, which is
oh really,
pretty impressive.
was it 11 in America?
That's what it says on Wikipedia. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even know. I had no idea about that. I've got to be honest with you, Harry. I wouldn't have ever thought it was anything like that.
It says the Heat Seekers chart. Uh,
Whatever that is.
yeah, music charts issued weekly by Billboard magazine.
Right, right. Oh, wow.
Sounds pretty legit.
Yeah, I mean, like we kind of, I think the label was keen on, well, our management especially was keen on doing stuff in America, and to be honest, in hindsight, might have been out there a little bit too much. Um, you know, I think we were meant to be playing at Lollapalooza, um, and then suddenly we got the offer to be on Top of the Pops instead, and I think, you know, we suddenly backtrack and went to Top of the Pops instead, and then Lollapalooza weren't told that we weren't turning up. No one
Oh
told
wow.
them. So literally, the guy on stage was like, "Yeah, it was meant to be boy kill boy, but you know the assholes didn't turn up, you know." And everyone, boo, you know, it's like they hate us. This is Lollapalooza. This is like, you know, the bad. This is the thing that I loved when I was a kid. You know, the year that punk broke and stuff. Yeah, but you know, like like I say, like going touring around America, you know, doing the label work, doing stuff for the label in America was amazing, and we got to become very good friends with Ian. And to be honest with you, like he was a real hero of mine anyway. So like to be making connections with him in any level, like he actually wrote our biography. He wrote a biography for the second album, and it's so way out. It just freaked people out. We were told the label, so they came back to us and said, "Your biog doesn't work because no one understands it," basically. And it's like it's really like amazing. It's like the wonderful mind of Ian McCulloch on paper, and all about Boy Kill Boy, but he's kind of saying, you know, what it is and what it means to him and all this kind of stuff. um but like yeah, so when it came to like the actual success, I guess I kind of saw it as being like we were already achieving great successes, if you see what I mean. Don't want to sound too much like a kind of child, but I guess realistically that was kind of it, really. So it's only until it's gone, you know, until you know, like cliche, but like until you kind of go, oh right, so oh yeah, that was pretty amazing, wasn't it? And like we really did have those incredible opportunities. Did we make the best of them? Was I the best I could have been? You know, did I do this too much? Did I let myself go? You know, like you start beating yourself up a bit, and the more time you have on your hands, they can get to you. You know, yeah. But you know, it's life, isn't it?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
give it your best shot, and you go for it, and you just like I say, kind of make sure that you enjoy it along the way before it's over too soon. You know.
No, yeah, yeah. Did you make it back to Lollapalooza then?
No,
All right.
we were never invited. Actually, to be honest, though, I mean, to be honest, at that point, and that second album, by the time it was released, I think quite a bit of money had been spent on it. And you know, we're all very fond of that album, as we would be. But I think there was a lot of mistakes in terms of the promotion of it. Like we had in-house press, and there's a lot of mix-ups with the dates and the release dates. And I think it did go out in a couple of magazines, but it was all completely the wrong time. Like the record wasn't out yet, and you know there was some real fumbles there. And so I could really blame lots of things on other people about how it was pretty clumsily released. But to be honest with you, you know, at that stage, I mean, our plugger sat us down, and she was one of the best pluggers, Kate. And she just was like, we had a meeting, and it was so depressing. She was just like, look, I've literally come back from BBC, and like they've just said, no, bring me no guitar bands. Like we don't want any guitar bands. We literally, it's hip hop, it's dance, electronic music, you know, pop music. It's just no, we're not having any guitar bands. And we were like, yeah, but what about like, you know, that's already kind of out there, like it's our second album, like surely they know that we kind of were playlisted and stuff. It was like, no, not even, I mean, you know, maybe Arctic Monkeys, you know what I mean? Like, or like, you know, stratospheric bands like the Kooks and stuff, and Razorlight, I'm sure they would get a little word in. But yeah, it was like a mass culling, and you know, sort of us and many bands on the label. Maybe it Dirty Pretty Things, I can't remember. So like loads of bands were just suddenly like, you know, that's it. And so me and the boys had a meeting in this pub that we always used to meet in West London. It was like, oh God, it's really depressing, like sitting around our beers going, what do we do? And you know, it was like, well, I guess we're back in the trenches, and you know, back in the transit van, and we'll get an independent release, and we'll go back to the beginning again. You know, come on, guys. But I think people were worn out. You know, they were worn out, and you know, had like long, you know, people had like long-term partners that they're looking to spend a bit more time with, and you know, it's just the game had changed. You know, the world had sort of changed massively in that small few years that we were finally in the mix. And it was like, you know, you could look at the front of a broadsheet newspaper, and it would be almost saying, even you are on LimeWire. And by the way, this is how you get on LimeWire. You know, it was so mainstream to in the culture to be not really buying music. It was no surprise that, you know, if you weren't stratospheric already, then you probably had your chance. And so we had to kind of gracefully take our place on the famous indie landfill. graveyard.
Yeah, fair. I mean, what was that feeling like? Some people come on and say they were lost, when they leave the band. Other people say they had other things lined up already. What was it like for you guys?
Yeah, I think we appreciated a bit of time out, and when any business sort of ends, which of course it was a business, was things to sort of get straight at the end and organise, and that was a bit difficult, and that probably meant for a couple of years we weren't wanting to be in each other's pockets for a little while, but nothing major. Like it's just I think we're just being, it is unusual, isn't it? I mean, it's a cliche, but four men living in each other's space, personal space, literally, sharing little bunks next to each other. So, with each other all day, all night, it takes its toll a little bit. So I think at first it was probably a bit of a breath of fresh air, but then, and I was thinking about being a songwriter. Like my management were kind of sort of ushering me in that direction. Oh, you could be writing songs for other people. So I was kind of thinking, yeah, that sounds good. And that means I can start laying my roots a little bit. But it didn't really work out. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't have the right connections, but I just didn't. Also, I was only used to writing songs for me and for my mates in my band. So I was like, oh, Kev's gonna like this bit, or Pete's gonna be able to make this bit sound even better. It's like I always had that in my mind. So the idea of going into a studio with someone who I didn't know and trying to write them a chorus but make it feel like they wrote it, but kind of not, that like, I've been sent here because your song's not good enough. It's like I just didn't quite know how to do it. So I did have time on my hands, and on my CV, there is a gap. Do you know what I mean? As I have been pointed out in more recent interviews for things, it's like there's a gap. Yeah, but it's like, yeah, it's a time to work out and regroup, isn't it? And I could tell you how difficult that was for me. I probably wasn't looking after myself, and nowadays would use phrases like my mental health wasn't right and all that kind of stuff. So I've listened, Harry, to many of your podcasts
Ah, nice one.
because I'm a real fan of you, and like I have seen some really serious cases of things that people went through. So I feel like I probably, to honour that, won't go into the minor details of my own difficulties in compared to some of those guys. They've had a real tough time, so I really feel for some of those guys. But the bottom line is, like, it is weird because you've got all, you're push, and then suddenly nothing. It must be a bit like the military guys, that are in battle and they come back. Oh God, actually, no, that's a terrible reference. No, but
It's all relative, though. I know what you mean.
relative for all that action, then suddenly just like you're back in civvy life. It's kind of like it's such a weird mindset where you've got like a tour manager that's sort of kind of your dad. Like, like, you don't forget you got to be here in a minute, and getting you up in the morning, and making sure you've got some food lined up and stuff. I mean, it's like, it's so weird to have that as an adult, as a grown man. Suddenly you've got someone looking after you, and all this stuff, and then bit of adoration was quite lovely. Bit of the opposite as well, keeping you nice and grounded. So it's all weird when it finishes, and and all those people which are in your community, especially like your working community, label management, your little team, suddenly, not that they don't like you anymore at all, or I hope not anyway, but it was just like suddenly they're gone. And all these people that you're in contact with all the time, that you kind of consider to be your mates, really close friends, really they've moved on. They've got other bands to look after and deal with. Other bands that have
Yeah.
done really, really well, and we're really happy for them. But we were like a bit of a sort of guinea pig for our management at the beginning, because they dealt with a lot of sort of metal bands before us, and I think we were like one of the first bands that they managed to really kind of go down that mainstream, like, major label route. So they tried some things out, and I've got nothing but thanks for them taking us on that journey with us. But I think sometimes they would say that also they learned a lot as well as we learned a lot, and they're absolutely smashing it now. They're massive players in the game, and They look after some of the greatest musicians in the world. And actually, some of that team is helping us out on this new little journey that we're on now. So it's just amazing. Like, we're so grateful for them, because we don't know about how it is these days. Like, how do you promote a band? I was literally like last night talking, so what are we going to do? Like, how, because I've got kind of some new songs and new music. And do you go to a label? Do you do it yourself? So, not meaning to expose my ignorance too much, but and we'll have a nice team of us working out what to do right in the right way there. But yeah, it is a different world, man. Different world. So respect to all those bands that kind of know how to really get the best out of the internet and do it themselves. Huge, huge amount of respect and lots to learn, really.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe a bit of a crass question, but like the obviously like your reference for like the money was different back in the day. Like when you guys call it a day, did you have a bit of freedom in that respect, or did it not work like that in terms of money you'd earned?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I think yeah. No, I think we kind of as we divvy things out and stuff like that. I think that it wasn't as dreadful as an impact as it could have been. Yeah. Um, we Yeah, you're right. Absolutely, that can be devastating as well, because like suddenly, because we paid ourselves a very modest, um, you know, few hundred quid a week type stuff. Like, it was nothing fancy about it. Um, so that meant that because we were, I won't say we're shrewd, but like we were sensible-ish with our money, which meant there was a little bit left over to kind of soften the blow at the end. But then it's not long until you go, right, what am I going to do? And I remember working in a diner at one point, and it was just one of those nights where like someone from another band. I think it was One Night Only. Do you remember that band, One Night Only?
Yeah, yeah.
Really sweet guy. Like, he came in here, and I was working behind the bar, and in this diner thing in Carnaby Street, and he was like, Chris, and I was like, what? Who are you? And he was like, he's fucking whatever his name is. And I was like, are you the dude from One Night Only? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, man, it's me. Come on. And I was like, hey, how's it going with it? And he's like, what are you up to? And I was like, yeah, this man, like, what are you up to? And he was like, oh, meet my girlfriend. And she was like someone from like Pop Idol or something. I don't know. Anyway, it was like, I was like, oh man, like, this really sucks. But you know what? Like, in the grand scheme of things, like I, I think that we were a bit of a chalk. We were a bit of a kind of Marmite type band. I'm sure there's lots of people out there that thought we were the biggest bunch of wankers, and I'm sure there was all sorts of we were not soluble for some people, but we also had a very sort of probably small but very very much loving sort of fan base, if you want to call it that. And that's just the thing that is just like the golden thread, like it just keeps on just linking through us all the years that have gone by. And I hate to sound really cheesy, but it's just like, you get another email from some dude in Mexico or like Argentina or something, and it's just telling you something really profound that's happened in his life, and that your band has meant so much to him. Please come out and play to Mexico. And by the way, there's so many people in Mexico wanting to us to go to Mexico. We've got to do that at some point. But like, that's the stuff. That's the stuff. I am a massive cheeseball, but it is like, that's the currency that I guess it's the connection is what I'm trying to say. For me, it's all about the connection. And it would have been lovely if we had tons more money and could have made some different decisions and all the rest of it, and all the rest of it. But what we seek is real connection, and that's what we're looking forward to in this October date in the Scala. Ideally a room full of people that really want to be there, and we can all just celebrate a kind of time in our life, which is just what Oslo was 10 years ago. It was really emotional for some people, particularly us, but I mean, it was something to do with resurrecting the feeling of those times, which is what it is, isn't it? It's nostalgia. Having a bit of a taste of it again.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like there's enough space between it now where people are not kind of afraid to be proud of it now. Do you know what I mean? There's a period after that scene where it's a bit like you wanted to avoid it or something, but now it's
Yeah,
like we can all just enjoy it
yeah.
for what it was and like how good it was, I think.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, like, look, I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I haven't had an interview in a long time. I don't know what I'm going to be talking about here. And I'm thinking back to some of those times and thinking, shit, I wonder what I do. What is there anything worth talking about? Like, it's just me. Like, who's going to be interested in that? But, like, the more you sort of reflect on things, the more you think back to that time. That was such an amazing time for British music. Oh my God. Like, there was, mystery jets on Top of the Pops with us. Like, it's just there was so much cool stuff going on. You go to New York, you'd be bumping into other bands like my friend's band Apartment, who I absolutely loved, who like absolutely underestimated, should have been massive, that band. Like, but we'd bump into them in New York, and they were like my friends. You'd see them in these similar sort of journeys, and your paths would cross with different bands, and people from down your road, you bump into them in the street in South by Southwest because you're all out there giving it the best you've got. Um, I remember I absolutely loved 80s Matchbox, Boot on
Yeah, yeah.
Disaster. I was absolutely loved those guys, and I used to live down in Brighton when they all were down there as well. So I kind of actually remember them being the coolest motherfuckers that were actually out in the world, just walking around Brighton in those days before I'd even known that they were going to get together and be a band eventually. So when they did, and I was always just absolutely in awe of that band. But when I was playing in South by Southwest and we were supporting the Flaming Lips in this very small venue, it was going out live on Radio 1 with Zane Lowe. It was big. Had on one hand, on one side of the stage was like Arctic Monkeys, I think the other side was the Strokes. We're in the middle and we are shitting ourselves, to be honest. And I'm looking out and I just see one face out there in the audience who meant more to me than anything, and it was Guy from 80s Matchbox staring me right at the face and in the face. And at the end, I couldn't wait to speak to him. I was just like, it was like someone from the Beatles or something. I was like watching me in the audience. And as soon as I finished, he came up to me, and I went to him, and he came to me, and we're like holding on to each other. And it was like, do you know? And he was like, thank you, man. Like, that was such a great gig. That really, really got me. And I was like, what? You're joking. I was going to tell you that, like, you're my fucking hero. And we spent some time with a bottle of whiskey after that and had a great, great night. And I got lost in Austin for 2 days, but that's for another story, probably. But, like, you know what I mean? It was just like, it was so much cool stuff happening, and the British bands were really doing so well of it. So yeah, really amazing. Just very privileged and so happy to have been part of anything like that. It was wicked.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, let's segue into the questions then, because we've got absolutely loads of them.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, some from South America, like you mentioned. We'll start with the Instagram ones. Got Eric Ferreira. Any chance of a new track or maybe some unreleased material? Cheers.
Uh, yeah. So sort of, yeah. I've been asking my band, what should I mention? Um, no, basically, it's work in progress there. Like, I've just written a new song that we're all really excited about. We want to get into a studio and record that ASAP. There's also another one that's in the back burner, and we want to do something with that ASAP. But I'm told not to mention any more of, like, more plans with anything like that because we don't know 100% what that shape is going to be. But the answer is, dude, we aim to get new music out in one shape or another. Okay, so we'll let you know.
Okay.
We're
I
looking
realized I didn't
forward.
really ask you about your relationship with NME. Obviously, you played NME tours. Bands usually say it's a bit up and down with NME, but how was it for you guys?
Yeah, it was up and then down. Yeah, I think it was part of that thing of, like, we were a new up and coming indie band on an indie label, and then we trans then we changed shape into a major label band, and I think that there's a natural swing against that kind of stuff, and I get it. Maybe I don't know, were we the coolest band in the world? Probably not. Maybe they just thought, oh, these guys are a bunch of wankers. I don't know. Whatever happened, but I think there was like a slight element of like cattle prodding going on and a bit of like, we'd be mentioned a lot, but sometimes it was like, maybe they're a bit nasty. Maybe maybe the milk's gone sour. Who knows? But at the same time, they would be like saying some of those things whilst we were technically headlining their tours. So it was like, it's hard to know, sometimes you just got to take it on the chin and just be like, yeah, well, it can't be too bad. Otherwise we wouldn't be fucking headlining their tour for them. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, like NME will always be, a special thing, and like they've just done something about us recently. They've got wind of this little reunion thing, and they've put something out there, and someone emailed it to me, and I'm glad to see it. Thank you, NME. It's great that they're still going as an institution. It's very special, so I'm glad.
Yeah, yeah. And then ABC123, I won't read all that username out. Did the singer and drummer used to go to Trash every week in around 1998? I'm sure I
Yes,
saw them there.
yes, man. Yes, we did. We did. We very much did.
Yeah, good things
They
about it.
it was kind of like one of those days where there was something going on every night in London that you go to what's it's called on down what you call it street on a Wednesday night, and you'd know where to pick up the flyers that all stuck to the floor, and that's going for that one, and then might as well pick up a flyer for Thursday, and it was like £3 to get in, this that and the other, and £2 to get in, £3 with a shot of drink and all that kind of stuff. So we used to make our way up from the end of the central line, and we'd get 3 bottles of wine for a tenner from Sainsbury's. Me and Shaz and our mate Jim would drink that on the way there, and then we'd go to around the back of Tesco's where they used to chuck out all the sandwiches at the end of the day and eat a load of old sandwiches, then pick up the flyers and then go to Trash or go to wherever, and see if we could, find somewhere to sleep that night, basically. So we're in this band Future of Junior. We had this song called Miss Scandinavia that was like, looking back on it, probably quite dreadful, but like was yeah, was basically all about having to at the end of the night you kind of share notes and be like, has anyone got anywhere we can sleep tonight? It's like, yeah, there's these really lovely girls from Norway, but they're sharing a room with like 6 other girls, but they said we can sleep on the floor, and we're like, oh, okay, that sounds good, that sounds like an option. Yeah, so we probably made lots of friends, but probably quite a lot of enemies at the same time around that era. But yeah, it was really good fun. Mr. ABC, your name is.
Aranta Lifestyle says, "Are you coming to the US?"
Um, well, we would love to, wouldn't we? It's a little bit costly, but we've got this real sort of fascination with wanting to go to Mexico at some point, because there's such an active amount of enthusiasm there. So I don't know, man. We'll have to see whether we can do that and make it work. But we'd love to go back to America. Don't know. Is it all right over there still? What's it like? I don't know. Maybe a bit
No idea,
scary.
to be fair.
Yeah.
But where did you go down best abroad, do you think? Did you play a lot in Europe and stuff?
We I think we did some lovely things in Europe. I mean, supporting the Kooks was a nice privilege tour, and we got to play in front of some really good response there. But I think I think America was really exciting. I think we kind of had a little bit of a slight crossover sound, which maybe was received quite nicely there. But some of the most amazing memories were the Echo and the Bunnymen tours, like because there was a like slightly older crowd, and they listened. They really listened. You know what I mean? Like they weren't so fussed about screaming around and charging into each other. It was more just like listening, and then and so that felt like a new level of commitment stroke challenge for us. Had to really up our game in those situations. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
all over, man. It's like in England, it's obviously or the UK. The further north you get, like the more rowdy things can get. Like nothing like a gig up in Barrowlands to keep the flies off the chips. But you just got to cover up all your gear because all the beer goes everywhere, doesn't it? It's absolutely mental.
Did you play in Japan or anything like that?
No, I'm just going to plug you in if that's all right. Is that cool?
Yeah.
No, man. Do you know what? That's one of my real regrets is that we never got to do that. I would have loved to have experienced that. And I think at the time it was just, we just had so much emphasis on America and things like that that we didn't get out to Japan in the end. So yeah, and we were like, why aren't we going to Japan? Like tugging on the shirt. Why are we going to Japan? It was like they don't like you very much in Japan. We're like, I can't believe it. If they like, how can they not like us in Japan? I think they were just like, that's just not part of the plan, dude. It's a bit like how some bands just don't manage to go out to Australia enough, although that's absolutely an amazing place to be, but we never got to go there either because, a bit more of a mission, isn't it?
No, I guess so, yeah. I can imagine Japan going wild for you, to be fair, given some of the bands that went over there, but
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We're like, how can they absolutely love like really obscure bands that even we haven't heard of, and then they wouldn't like us? But who knows? Maybe that's a watch the space situation. Maybe that could be part of our next campaign in another 10 years. We'll do some sort of 60-year-olds on like a Japanese tour. Mount Fuji are us. Let's go. Yeah.
yeah. Malcat says, "You're back?" Question mark, exclamation mark. Finding out you broke up was devastating. You went triple platinum on my iPod. So,
Oh,
not really a
hey,
question there, but
that's so amazing, man. Yeah, thanks to you, dude. Like I say, we had a really tight sort of community, didn't we? Sort of like the people that really got it, and we just really got you people, and we just really love to be able to meet you and have fun with you after gigs and make that connection a bit further. And thanks for many people that let us stay over their houses on those first tours where John Dawkins would drive us around in a transit van, and many of you guys, you early birds, managed to let us stay over at your houses on those early tours, so we didn't have to sleep on each other's faces in the van.
Dustin Bar Mitzvah wanted to know the thinking behind the name.
Yeah, yeah. The thinking behind the name was there wasn't much thinking about it, to be honest with you. I'll read. Let me read something out to you. Right, I'm going to just try and do something. Hopefully, I don't disconnect the phone. So I'm going to just try and. This is me being like technical here. Right.
All right.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So this is the thing from Ian McCulloch that he part of his like amazing little biog that he wrote for me for our like years ago. But he did like a little acrostic poem about Boy Kill Boy. So I'm going to read it out to you because it's so cool. And you've got to try and imagine it in his voice as well. I mean, I'm not going to try and do it. I can do it, but I'm not going to. But it's B is for bad days. O is for okay days. Y for you don't want to know days. K for knew it wouldn't be days. I for if I wasn't me days. L for like days. L is less days. B is for better days, ahead days. O for one day at a time days. Y for yes to today's. It's like written so cool. And he kind of goes on to say that it's something to do with like leaving adolescence and becoming adult basically and killing off the boy sort of thing, which I thought was probably spot on in terms of like the final decision. Yeah, that makes sense. It's got some sort of weight behind it. Boy kill boy. It's something because obviously we weren't like a fighting band. We got involved in one scrap and we just ran the other way. I seem to remember with another band. So we weren't like a tough nut band. So we quite like the contrast of this tough name, but being quite sentimental here and there. But also, I heard I was on the phone to my good friend up in Manchester, my good friend Joe Dudridge, and from Later Youth, by the way. Amazing, amazing new music from Joe Dudridge in Later Youth, who used to be in the traveling band and all that kind of stuff. But he was on the phone to me once. We were just having a chit chat, and he was like, "Anyway, have you got a name for your new band?" I was like, "No, I can't think of one." I'm like, it's a nightmare. We've got to make a decision. We're going to have to get some demos done soon, la la la. Anyway, he was talking about something else, and I was like, "Did you just say Boy Kill Boy?" And he was like, "What? No." And I was like, "Yeah, you did. You just said Boy Kill Boy. That's a fucking great name." And he was like, "No, I wasn't. No, I didn't. I don't know what you're talking about." I was like, "You said Boy Kill Boy," and he was like, "No, I didn't." And then later on, we realized, and I ran off and said, "I've got this new name, fucking hell." The rest of the guys were like, "Yes, okay, come on, let's just make a decision and go with it." And then he was like, and then he said to me, "I've worked out what you thought." I was talking about a boy called Roy. And I was like, "You're talking about a boy called Roy," and obviously I must have just drifted off, and then wasn't really listening properly. And but anyway, so then I was at a party of his, like years later, and this is years after Boy Kill Boy had broken up, and I was in some like cool party that Joe put on, and some guy came up to me and was like, "All right, my name's Dave or whatever," and I was like, "Oh, how you doing, man?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've got a bone to pick with you," and I was like, "Oh, really?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm from a band that was called A Boy Called Roy." And I was like, "What?" There was an actual band called Boy Called Roy. And he was like, "Yeah, that was my band. You nicked our name." And I was like, "No way. I didn't mean to nick your name, man. I just heard someone say something." He was all right. But yeah, he's from Manchester. Boy Called Roy. I don't know. Were they big? I don't know. But yeah, so I
But you
know.
didn't actually nick the name though.
I apologize. I said, "Listen, man, that's not cool. I hope you don't think I actually stole." But yeah, I misheard something, and that's where the name came from. But I kind of prefer Mr. Ian McCulloch's take on it personally.
Um, All the Lonely People says if you could re-record one song with an orchestra, which one would it be?
Oh man, what a wicked question. Ooh. Um, there's a song called Time that we did that was a B-side. It's got lots of cellos and violins and stuff. Well, actually, it's all synth sort of cello and stuff, but that would be pretty cool. There's also a song called Ivy Parker from the first album that I'm sure would have sounded lovely with some. It's got some big sort of romantic piano, but let's imagine that I had some lovely strings and woodwind and stuff. Yeah, I'm going to bathe out on that question for a little bit longer in my own time. But yeah, I think it's a nice one.
13 Psy, do you guys plan on doing some gigs abroad? There are some fans in Mexico waiting for you.
Hey, my friends. Yeah, well, look, what started off as a maybe we should go to Mexico, man, haha, is turned into no, how can we make this work? So if anyone out there has any connections in Mexico and knows how to help us make that a reality, then please do get in touch because it's a bit of a like it's a bit of an ambition of ours. So to all of our friends in Mexico, please keep in touch with us because we love you and we want to get out there.
And this is the first time I've had to translate some questions, to be fair. Got
Yeah.
one in Italian from Stefano Pisano saying, I think they're saying, did you ever play in Italy?
Did we ever play in Italy? Do you know what? I don't think we did. No, we never made it to Italy, Stefano. Sorry about that, man. Did you ever make it to London? Because we're going to play soon on the. Actually, one of the reasons why we thought we'd do it on this date and the 29th of October is because it's in holidays and it's actually going to be my 50th birthday as well. So we're going to have a big party that night, and we just needed it to be in holiday time so people could come even if they're not from London. Obviously, we want everyone coming down from all over the UK. And last time we did the gig in Oslo, in Hackney. We had a dude from Sweden that had come over specifically for the gig, a guy from Australia that made sure his trip was going to be at around the time that Boy Boy was playing. So it's like, we want to make it accessible for everyone. So yeah, it's a Thursday night. but it's going to be in the holidays, guys. So if you've got kiddos, get a babysitter.
One from Martin Langhorne. Do you still talk to Susie?
Yeah, well, my manager's wife was called Susie, well, she still is, I'm sure. And yeah, she often liked the idea that it was written about her. But Susie, love to you. It was a made up name. Although my manager, Dave Bianchi, sent me this like wicked little clip from Family Guy, and it's I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like the little baby is like, I'm gonna make a song called Susie. Come on, man. Every you're just gonna have a girl's name. If you're gonna get a girl's name in a song, you're gonna sell. It's gonna be massive. Like Susie. That's why my song's gonna be called Susie. And I just looked at it and was like, oh my god, are we that basic? That like Family Guy baby is taking the piss out of us. But no, there is no Susie. God,
Exclusive.
it's not real.
C4 Daniel just says new album question mark.
Oh man, you know what? It's addictive. Like starting to get kind of new songs done, and then, what the journey is a funny one, isn't it? Because in music, when you're doing it kind of for a living, you have such a journey. You write the song, then you get a buzz out of like recording it in a crappy little demo for yourself, and listening to it back on your way into your job, on the train or whatever, and that's a buzz. And then there's like playing it to your mates, and then that's a buzz. And then there's like playing it to your band and getting in a practice room. And then there's like the radio, maybe TV, or in the internet. And this case these days, and then there's the audience, and like all along the way, there's like the kind of buzz of it. So like the buzz of making new music, and then my band going, yeah, I like it, like we could do something with that. That's such a, I haven't had that feeling in such a long time. So I'm properly dining out about that at the moment. But then I'm now going to soon be addicted to that feeling, and I'm going to want to make like lots more of those opportunities for that feeling to happen. And that usually is the shape of an album. um, but let's not run before we can walk. So I probably shouldn't be promising any albums out there in the immediate future, but who knows?
The Dreamer Evasive says, do you have any material that was never released?
The Dreamer Evasive is the album title of that band Apartment that I was telling you
Oh, right. Okay.
I used to really, really love. So it might be one of their fans, maybe. What was the question again?
Do you have any unreleased material?
Yeah. I mean, I've got tons of songs that I've written in different shapes and sizes, and other bands as well that I've been in. I had a little kind of acousticy thing, folky project called the Family Tree thing at one point. But yeah, just some songs just happily left in the past, or on SoundCloud, or just little demos here and there. But in terms of Boy Kill Boy, we did have like one or two songs that never made it to record it, a proper recording. And there's reasons why. they need to stay they need to stay right where they are. But the thing is though, man, like how it used to be, I don't know if it's anything like that nowadays, but to get exclusives on iTunes and things like that back in the day, you'd always need to have another carrot to dangle. So the more music you had up your sleeve, the better. So you could go, we'll offer you this song as an exclusive to Spotify or whatever it would be. And so anything you had, it was like, come on guys, we need more material, even if it's not that great. It's just like we need more stuff to churn out, and eventually you kind of go, no, that's not going anywhere, that one's staying in the vault. But no, I mean, the answer to that is basically that. No. There's no old stuff that's going to be regurgitated. There's only new stuff that's going to be put out if we do.
Right. Yeah, I saw that you did a live launch thing as well, didn't you? Is it Nelly Furtado?
Yeah, we did a little Man-Eater cover. We did
Quite a
it.
big deal at the time, though, wasn't it? Live launch was massive at the time.
Yeah. It was, wasn't it? Joe Wiley. It was quite a big one. I think it was. Yeah, it was on one of those albums that sold quite well and things as well. I seem to remember like DJs that would never normally play us in like drive time Radio 1 were sort of suddenly playing our Man-Eater version. You know what I mean? It was like that song sort of suddenly kind of got us places in some ways than other our own material didn't, in a mainstream kind of way. Yeah, we did it sort of like, I don't know, what did we do? A kind of like jazzy sort of acousticy style or something. I think it's because we were on tour basically, and we got this offer to do it, and we didn't have very long to put something together. So that was like a Chris EP at the back of the tour bus with an acoustic guitar going, I think I've got something, and sort of turned it into a very quick and easy to do situation. But then we were in, what's that really famous studios that the BBC use?
Made of Vale.
Maida Vale, thanks. Yeah. And we were there with these like really amazing producers that have been there for time, probably used to wear like white sort of coats at some point, who knows, like, and we were recording this like Nelly Furtado Manny, which is basically a bit of a jokey sort of song, and I was thinking, oh man, have we done ourselves a favor here? Like, it's not, is this credible? Like, we could be doing something really amazing, do you know what I mean? But at the time, the indie bands were sort of doing like jokey versions of pop songs, even if they really liked the pop song. It was just like, it was like the thing that was done at the time, wasn't it? And then pop stars would then do like covers of indie bands or something. And so there was this like mutual exchange that used to go on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Then we've got CRX Ziffix, who says, what electric guitar was used to play Civil Sin? Boy Kill Boy is vital to my existence.
Oh, amazing. What's his name again?
CRX Ziffix. I think, yeah. It
Cheers.
looks like a Wi-Fi password or something. But
Yeah, wow. Yeah. Try and remember that one. Thanks, man. Yeah, that was my Gibson 335, which has got a punchy sound. I was mainly a Fender sort of boy, really, but my Gibson 335 had a lovely little punch to it on that one. But sometimes with double track guitars, like sometimes there was a Gibson Fender crossover. That's probably something I shouldn't have ever really admitted, because guitar purists would not appreciate that crossover. But yeah, I was either that or a Fender thin line telly that I used to use quite a lot as well.
okay. Yeah, I noticed I've been going through old NMEs recently, and that you were in that section they used to do where it'd be like, how do I sound like Boy Kill Boy? And it kind of broke down how to sound like you guys.
Right. Oh, right. Well, I
Be
might have to
interested to
find
know.
that out, because I'm going to have to start sounding like Boy Kill Boy again soon. So I might have to, you might have to send me a copy of it.
Yeah, I'll send you a screenshot. Yeah. Sparks Film Weddings, I think it is. I need to hear about a tour. Right, we've got the gigs to
Yeah,
start with.
we basically would like to be able to do more than just London, but at the moment, this is the big one. We're just looking at London as our opportunity to bring everyone together. And like I say, doing it in the holiday period means that hopefully everyone can get a chance to get there.
Yeah, Libby Cavern Dubstep says, "Hello, Libby here again. What is your personal favorite track you've released?"
Uh, um, oh, like as a single, um, I think like there's like songs on the sort of second album, like "Be Somebody," that didn't get the light of day that it probably should have done. And it's really good fun to play live as well. It's really punky and thrashy and things like that. Um, but to be honest with you, Civil Sin always feels really, really good fun to play. It's got like all the stuff. It's got the kind of tribal floor toms, um, marching to war type stuff, and then it's got the kind of lush romantic chorus. And I actually wrote that whilst watching the. I wrote that song whilst watching the second aeroplane go into the second tower, and just having this huge, deep feeling that the world was going to change hugely from that moment onwards. And I remember screaming out, "Oh my God," and it was like, and I had my guitar in my hand at the time, and I just sat there glued to the TV for about 3 hours, just watching live news, going, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." And then that sort of, whilst I was doodling away, like that was kind of just in the background. And I remember this feeling of like, no one has an idea, do they? About is anyone going to find out what this whole thing was about? No one has a fucking clue about what's really going on behind the scenes in the most powerful people in the world and that weird game of chess that they play. And so, in some sort of probably quite naive way, I sort of tried attempting to put some words together around those themes. Um, but you know, whether I did it successfully or not, I don't know. But playing it live is great fun. Anyway, yeah, it's a good song to play live. That one.
No, yeah, it's a great song, yeah. I think it's
Thanks, man.
known as one of the best FIFA songs ever. Is that one on FIFA, I think? Yeah.
Yeah, man, it was on FIFA, wasn't it?
I think you had a few song on games, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. We had like I think we had Susie on one of them as well. Yeah, and that really did like it really did work as a way to reach out to people. Like we'd have people going like just some of their memories of like this sort of thing like uproots people's memories, doesn't it? And sometimes you see comments of like, "Oh mate, I love that band FIFA." You know, it's like the first word that comes after "Boy Kill Boy" is FIFA. Why not, man?
And speaking of football, Sustainable Golfer says best soccer AM story.
Yeah. Oh man, love to Robbie Knox. Yeah. Well, we just man, you know, I don't follow football the way that I probably should. Um, and as a result of it, like whenever I'm involved in anything to do with football, it's just like imposter syndrome kicks in, and I just go on like sort of like get in my shell, you know. And so when we went on Soccer AM, I was like, oh man, here we go. I'm going to get absolutely torn to shreds because I just don't have enough football swagger in me. I don't have enough chat. But I did absolutely thrive on the fact that I was the only person that scored at the end and kicked the ball right through that hole. And I was like, yeah, fuck you. Love that. Absolutely love that moment. So
That's
yeah,
it,
thanks
yeah.
for giving me the chance to show off about that. But I don't know. I think John Dawkins, one of our old managers, like I think he sent me a little copy of it that he's recorded from his old phone. But in those days, cameras weren't so special, so it's pretty grainy. But at least it's evidence that yes, I did get to kick that ball through that hole. It's a good moment.
No quality, yeah. I think you and Ryan Jarman nailed it.
Yeah, yeah. Totally, it's what we have in common. Apart from the fact that we used to both swim in the same swimming pool, but he
Oh, really?
doesn't know that I know that. But it
Where
was
was that?
it was in London Fields Lido. But
Oh,
like
yeah.
I used to keep swimming behind him, and I don't know, just one summer it just happened that he would always go the same time as me or the other way around. And I just thought I'm pretty sure Ryan thinks that I'm stalking him. I'm like his weird swimming pool stalker. So I'd have to like wait till he came out so I could go in. So it didn't look like I was trying to chase him around the swimming pool like a sort of weird Benny Hill, like indie Benny Hill in the swimming pool. But anyway,
Oh, dear. Um, Someone else just says come to Mexico. Someone else says just want to say hello from Indonesia. Been a fan since I was 12.
that's
Some
amazing.
some wavy, gravy, groovy.
Wow, that's a lovely Indonesian name. I didn't know that's how it goes down there. That's amazing. Thank you.
Solace 6. Have you written any new music over the last 10 years or so? I don't know if you've covered that already, really. I don't know.
Yeah.
One from someone in Brazil that I had to translate. I'll just find the translation. Um, how do they feel when they know they have many fans in Brazil?
Yeah. Well, it makes us want to come and meet you, doesn't it? Basically, it makes us want to come out and see what Brazil has to offer, but to meet our friends out there because we never got to, and it's a travesty that we didn't get to South America, man. Because there's a lot of enthusiasm when you get that Spotify thing at the end of the year, and it tells you all your data, and it's like. I think like Mexico is like number two in the world of like biggest listenership, and then it goes to Brazil after that or something like that. And so it's a real thing. Like we do really want to pay attention to that and see if we can do something cool one day. If we can afford it, we'll come out.
Yeah, that was from Renan Marespi, just to get that in there.
Thanks,
One
man.
from Redanda Sun Music. If I put some eyeliner on, can I support, please? Thanks. Thanks, Reed.
Yeah, cheers, Reed. You can do our merch for us if you want, and you can sell the new Guyliner range that we've got coming out. Yeah, boy smudge boy. You can be our spearhead for that. I'm gonna stop talking. So,
Tsunami Sky Clan says, "Will there be a Stars and Seas 20th anniversary?"
oh man, yeah. I mean, like I say, we're really fond of that album. Uh, feels a bit like the one that got away, but yeah, it's we're going to play some of those songs at this next gig. Definitely, we're going to play some of the bigger songs from that album. Get to enjoy it. But yeah, thanks for the question.
One from Guaco 92. What are your favourite songs to perform live?
Yeah, I guess Back Again's really big. Civil Sin's really big. Also, I like playing the song called "Look Away." That's a B-side. I think it's a vinyl B-side, but I love that song as well. It's really, really slow and really understated, and it's kind of it's a lot to do with the play on dynamics. Very tender, subtle thing to play after all those loud, big tunes. So yeah, "Look Away" is another good one.
John Shortland says, well, your reference is like a rumor that you're a manufactured band from NTV. Were you ever aware of that?
Oh yeah. No, it's kind of weird because one of the first interviews I ever had was with Zane Lowe, and I was in a pub in Camden with Boy Kill Boy. We I don't know what we're doing there, but it was like a random day in the afternoon, and I got a phone call. Oh yeah, it would probably be something to do with Fierce Panda or something. But anyway, I got this call from this withheld number, and it was like, is that Chris Peck? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, it's fucking Zane. I was like, Zane, how you doing, man? Because I used to work in MTV as a runner, basically, just
Oh,
for
right.
a short while, like just for a year or something. And he was working on the Gonzo show, you know, and he was like in the cool department, and I was like, but I got to sit next to him on the desk, and we made friends a little bit, and like he took me out to see At the Drive-In once, which was really sweet of him, and like got to be with a bit of a super celeb, and got to meet these kind of cool bands. I was just a bit in awe of it all. But yeah, you know, like we weren't best buddies, but he was really kind to me, and yeah. But I left MTV to kind of to do my Boy Kill Boy thing, to like put all my time into it. And I'd kind of been offered a researcher's job there, but I just thought, no, do you know what? If I'm going to do this, I've got to like put all my energy into it, basically. So, so it was quite a few years after that. That's why Zane, I mean, although I think I probably had his number, but I just, you know, it wasn't right for me to call him up and go, hey, could you pull any strings? You know, so he phoned up and was like, you fucking what? Like, he was shouting at me. I was like, what's up, man? He was like, you didn't tell me that you're the singer of Boy Kill Boy, you fucking idiot. We've just been playing your song all week. Like, we've got it as like song of the week. Did you know that? And I was like, no, I didn't. He was like, you fucking idiot, you know. And he was like, look, we've got to do an interview with you, man. Like, I can't believe I just found out it's you, you know. And I was like, yeah, I'll do an interview. When do you want it? He's like in 2 minutes, don't swear, you know. I was like, oh, okay, fucking up. So I kind of went back into the yeah, swore immediately. But I went back into the pub afterwards. I was like, I've just had a fucking interview with Zane Lowe out there. That was mad. And they're like, what? You know, I was like, did anyone know he's just been playing it, you know, his song of the most important song in the world today, or whatever it was. Yeah, so maybe that might have smelled a bit fishy, you know, for some people. They might have thought, oh, hang on a minute. Because when Zane went on air, he was like, by the way, you know, as soon as he went on air, he set it up like that. It was like, there was this guy who used to work in MTV, and he said he was going to quit, and I said, don't quit your day job, kind of thing. But he decided to anyway, and years later, here he is, the singer of Boy Kill Boy. I had no fucking idea, but you know what? How you doing? Um, so it was like, yeah, it felt like really organic, because like I basically hadn't been like trying to manufacture things. I knew I had that integrity for myself, but I'm not quite sure if that got a little bit misconstrued along the way. You know, there was, I think, like that first album, the management, like the label, wanted it to do better than it did a bit, and trying to find reasons why maybe it didn't go quite as far as it could have done. And there was like there was this notion, I think there was a rumor going around that we were like a manufactured project, and that like we didn't write our own songs, and and this, that, and the other, and that I must admit that like that was, you can put up with quite a lot of people being nasty about it and stuff, but that really fucks me off because apart from the fact that I wrote all the stuff, and pretty much most of it. I mean, there was some beautiful songs as well that some of the other guys wrote individually, but like mostly, basically what I'm saying is I kind of like I knew where those songs had come from. Do you know what I mean? And I knew how hard we'd worked for a long, long, long time, even before the name Boyka Boy existed. So it felt like no, we do deserve this, and it's easy to get imposter syndrome. Bands can be very competitive with each other, and it's a bit like pathetic in that way sometimes, to be honest. And if you can rise above it, then that's okay. But yeah, when I heard that rumor going around, I was pretty upset by that. I was like, who the fuck's saying that, man? Come on, give us credit. If you don't think we're amazing, then so what? But like, you could at least say we're not like, yeah, at least we're real, Anyway, yeah,
No, yeah,
that hit a nerve, man. Oof.
yeah. Yeah, it'd be really annoying, yeah. Especially in an age where it's hard to get your own message out there. And like nowadays, you just send a tweet out, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Like you have to be so exposed um, in this day and age, and that is really good. Like that's a really good thing, and that new bands and artists get to have that real sense of integrity, and it you can't shift and change too much. I mean, I know there's like this sort of backlash about young blood and stuff like that, and I can see where that's coming from. But because he's clearly being very well presented and stuff like that. But also, he comes from that new generation of people that are very good at speaking to cameras and very good at promoting and presenting themselves. And, you know, um, he's smart, he knows how to do it. I'm a bumbling old fool who doesn't really know whether I'm, saying the right things. And, if I had someone um, teaching me how to do it, that would probably be a very good thing, but I never have done. So that's probably why I've never done amazingly well in that side of the industry. Like you've got to be really good at being a rock star to get you to that next level. You've got to be really good at sound bites. And, I know bands that have done very well. And a lot of that is because, not just because of their music, but because they are very good at being sharp and knowing exactly what to say and all that kind of stuff. Um, I'm not frugal enough with my words to be that good at it.
Fine at 11 just says, did you ever go back again?
Um, that's ambiguous. I guess we kind of are, aren't we? Back again, back again for the second time. It's like Return of the Mac,
Mm.
Return of. Just keep coming back every 10 years. I don't think though. I don't think it's likely to be another 10-year anniversary. But you know what? If we're all still alive, maybe we should do the Back Again, the third tour, um,
Yeah, why not?
a 30-year anniversary.
Sam on Instagram, last one on Instagram. What was your favorite show to play?
Favorite show? We
Yeah.
used to love playing the Sheffield Lead Mill. We used to love playing Stoke. Got some fond memories there. What else do we love? I mean, anything and obviously it goes without saying, kind of anything in London was always top one for us. Let me think though. Um, Reading, I've got very fond memories of playing Reading because that was a big jump up for us. And although there's not a lot of our stuff on on YouTube, because we didn't have a camera crew following us around everywhere we went, maybe we should have done. We didn't. So, but like you can see some of those like Reading and Leeds videos that were put up there, and I think from the BBC when they used to film it, and like you can see that we're just absolutely shitting ourselves, but having like the best time up there. And we were in amongst very prestigious company at the time. Some of the other bands that were playing on that bill were really big, so it felt really special to us.
Yeah, yeah.
We
And
played
then,
the Albert Hall as well. That was like another,
really?
that was a really special,
Was that a
special.
Warchild thing? Oh,
Yeah, it was no Teenage Cancer Trust.
oh, okay.
Yeah, that was special.
That's it, yeah. Got Cyber Maximalist on Twitter. Susie was 20 years ago. Wow, still a great song. Which band surprised you with their longevity from that era, and who had a shorter run than you expected?
That is a good question. Well, I mean, there's lots of bands that still kind of doing stuff, aren't there? I mean, it's no surprise that the Arctic Monkeys have the prestigious royalty that they have. Not that they would see it like that, of course, and that's probably why I love them. But um, I just love them, and like the impact that they've had globally on the British culture as well. I just think it's really cool. Um, I heard that they had a support band play with them that was like a cover band, a tribute act of them, covering them, supporting them the other day. I don't know if that's true or not, but
Oh, really?
if it is, then I just love them even more. But sorry, that I didn't mean to phone keeps going. But like, yeah, I would say, and I really do want to say about my love for the band Apartment as well, because their album The Dream of Evasive is beautiful, and they I really wish that they um could have a little bit more time in them to have made that a bit further of a journey, because I really admired those guys, and I was very good friends with them as well at a time. So it was, yeah, I really wish that they had like a bit more fortune on their side. They were really good. Apartment, yeah.
I have to check them out. Yeah, I might feel like I might know the songs if I heard them, but I don't know.
You would have done, yeah. You'll recognise a couple of songs that were out on radio and stuff. But they were brilliant live as well. Yeah, very cool. Dave Kajari, singer, used to play him, but he played for us on tour in Boy Kill Boy. At one of our last tours, he came out with us and played a bit of extra guitar. Even though like he's a kind of front guy and a songwriter and stuff, he just loved the band as well. And he even wrote a song actually. They in Apartment, in that album, there's a song called My Brother Chris that's about me, which feels weird me plugging a song about me, but just to sort of show you kind of how close we were as friends and stuff. And I really admired them and kind of quite inspired by them as well. So when David came and joined us on stage on that tour, it was really great, and it was nice having an extra guitar as well, because it was just like, wow, it just sounded big, like I'm the only guitarist, so normally. So yeah, thank you, Dave,
Yeah.
for joining us.
Mike Stanley says you have were they fond of playing fibbers in York?
Yeah. We were very fond of that because our guitar tech, Ollie King, the one and only, who's going to be hopefully joining us on our gig in King's Cross, I've heard. So now I'm getting you contractually in there, Ollie. He's been out with Jake Bugg, I think, about the last 5 or 6 years or something like that. Originally Shed Seven's guitar tech, but he was our guitar tech for a while, and we loved Ollie. And he was a York man, and the Fibbers was his yard. So we always had a good gig there in York Fibbers.
Tom Duncan just says, Jesus, that first album was incredible, still gets a regular airing. And then Bob Hughes says, memories of playing endless times at Sugar Mill in Stoke.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, wasn't it? Stoke, man. The sugar mill was wicked. I remember there was one guy who was standing out in the rain. It was just a really, really, really wet day and very cold. And we had our tour bus outside. And I went down and I was like, he's queuing out. He's on his own. He's been there for like 3 hours outside. I was like, mate, what are you doing out here? He's like, oh, hello, mate. I can't do the accent, but it was like, oh, I'm waiting to see your band, mate. And I was like, dude, it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're not playing till, the doors don't open until 7. Yeah, I know, but they kind of said that I couldn't get a ticket because I've been on tour. And I was like, oh, you're in a band? And he was like, no, I mean tour. Like he was out there in, you know, in doing working as a soldier, out in battle basically in Syria or wherever he was, Iraq, I think. And he basically was like, I couldn't get tickets in time. So they just said, if you wait, then we'll see if we can fit you in, later on. And I was like, listen, you're going on the guest list straight away. And I went up and I quickly burnt him a CD of which is a pretty stupid thing to do, really, looking back on it. But I burnt him a CD of like all these like acoustic versions of things that I'd made that hadn't been released. but just like little demos that I had, and I was like, mate, this is for you. Um, I want to say thanks for sticking with us, And he was like, fucking hell, that song On My Own, like he was like, that song has got me through some really dark times when I was out and doing my thing, doing his operations and stuff. And it was one of those real connections. I was just like, this is so incredible that I get to do, like, get to actually have these conversations. And then recently, because of this reunion thing, like he just sent a picture up on one of the comments, and it was just a picture of that CD, and I was like, "Fucking hell, man, it's you! That's great." You know what I mean? That was the Stoke. That was the Stoke. Yeah,
That's amazing, yeah.
yeah,
That must be the things that make it all worthwhile type thing, yeah.
yeah. I know. I'm a really sentimental old git, really cheesy. So I'm sorry about that, but yeah, it is. It's really special. Those are the things that are the special memories.
No, definitely, yeah, yeah. And then Liam Bayett says, I always thought Chris would make a fantastic Droog. I'm not,
A drug. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, look, there was one point where we were sort of thinking about image, and we were like, oh, come on, we can really dress up. And I always loved Adam Ant and stuff like that when I was a kid. I used to dress up as him when I was very little. I basically just looked like a little girl, to be honest, and much to the enjoyment and teasing of other people. But like when I got this chance to dress, I was like, I want to sort of like, wouldn't it be cool if we could look like the Droogs? Everyone wears the same thing, and wouldn't that be cool? Like just looking like a real like gang. And quite clearly, that was snubbed as a plan. It's like being there, everyone's like been there, done that, and moved on from that. But we did sort of like I think we sort of tried to kind of dress a bit dandy, a bit like my adamant sort of fetish. Like we sort of tried to dandy things up a little bit. But maybe some people found that a little bit too much. Like maybe we've gone a little bit too far the other way. And I think the NME like used to, like they would like get us to dress up in certain clothes, and then they'd slag us off for wearing the clothes that they got us to dress up in. You know what I mean? That was like in answer to your NME question. It was like, oh, thanks, guys. We're only bloody putting the clothes on that you asked us to. But I think you live and learn a bit when you do that kind of stuff, don't you?
Someone mentioned the haircuts on YouTube actually.
Yeah,
Um,
some
who
embarrassing.
who who sorted those out?
Yeah, there was some dodgy haircuts. We used to have this dude that used to come and cut our hair for us sometimes. Used to do my Lego haircut for me nicely. But
No, it
like,
wasn't Mark, was it?
what was his name?
Mark Hampton, no?
Oh,
No.
that rings a bell. I can't remember his name now, but he used to work in like a fancy place, but he'd come and do it. But of course, like the next thing you know, like the straighteners are coming out, and we look like a right bunch of wallies probably. But
Les straighteners were a big thing at the time, weren't
I think I think it was the thing of like, let's just do this, man. Like this could be the chance to be like little adamants doing our thing. Um, but we probably looked quite poncy looking back on it. That might have put some people's backs up looking back on it. Who knows? But there you go. Who cares?
they? Yeah. And one last one on Patreon from Kieran Thompson. Loved Boy Kill Boy. The second album is much more introspective and has some really strong tunes. I reckon I prefer that album. Did they write any for the first record, which ended up on Stars in the Sea because they didn't feel right for the first?
Ah, wicked, man. Thanks, Kieran. That's really astute. And the answer is no. Like nothing transferred from the first album to the second album. It wasn't like that one didn't make it onto the first one. It was a new batch, if you like. And again, we followed the similar patterns of how to record it. I would be often on my own, getting things started, demoing them myself, and then we'd kind of get together with a band. Then we'd go in a rehearsal room, work on them, make them a little bit more um, appropriate, and this, that, and the other. Like the second album, we were down in Brighton, living down there. We became good mates with the Kooks from the touring with them as well a little bit, and we were both writing our albums at the same time in these little practice rooms. So we'd sometimes pop in and see them, and vice versa, and go out for drinks and stuff. go out partying with them. And like, you know, it kind of felt like we were more relaxed and more chilled. And we were getting sent away from London because London had too many distractions, basically. So I think the label's plan was to keep us away from London. But of course, when we went down to Brighton, we found loads of lovely distractions down there. But yeah, like they are, you know, like it's true what everyone says. You know, first album's obviously much more got all that sort of youthful energy. Even though we probably weren't that youthful at the time thinking about it, but like, you know, all that sort of pent up. It took a long time to write that first. Well, you know, second album, you do have a time pressure, and you do have to kind of get things out a little bit at the end of the day. But no, is more introspective, maybe confident, like a little bit more confidently sentimental, perhaps. But again, that could be a bit of a sour taste for some people. Maybe it didn't have that urgency of the first album, and maybe that's what people would have liked. You know, maybe that's what they kind of wanted. We do have a couple of songs which are pretty urgent sounding, but the song that with the label was desperate to put out was No Conversation. Looking back on it, I'm not quite sure if I was ever really in agreement with that. And I love the video more than any of the other videos we've done. No Conversation on YouTube is brilliant, but it's just like it didn't have the impact that it probably needed as that first song back, like bam, you know. But yeah, thank you for the comments from your mate on Patreon. That's really kind.
Yeah, yeah. Well, cheers, mate. Cheers for your time. Just finish on two from me that I sent you. Is there a high point of the early days if you haven't covered it already? And is there anything you do differently?
Cheers, man. The high point was probably I think that was a really amazing day where we played um, Rock Against Racism in Trafalgar Square in the daytime, and then after that we then jumped on a boat and we then played this big gig on a boat, like a big barge. For like, it was called 24 Hours in Music or something like that. You know, we had a big headline show and it was going out on TV and stuff like this, and T4 or something. I don't know. It was just like really like, and there's some photos of that day that are a bit iconic, and like kind of, I just remember that feeling like we are really doing it now. Like we are properly in the mix right now. This is like we're doing what we've always wanted to do. You know, that was a fantastic day. And what was the other question, Harry?
Is there anything you do differently about the early days? Yeah.
Anything you do differently? Probably. I think if I was probably a bit more sober, I probably could have got more done. Um, no, I mean, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to kind of look back and go, what went, you know, what was something that was standing in the way, that could have got us better. I think maybe if I was more like confident and didn't let my mental health issues kind of get in the way of things, perhaps we could have pushed it to that next step, maybe. But you know, it is what it is, isn't it?
What do you mean? Sorry, that you lacked confidence at some point, obviously.
Um, I think just in terms of um, you know, like the drive and ambition of some people. Like some people around me at that time had the most incredible drive and ambition and opinion of themselves, basically this like do or die, like I am fucking amazing and everyone needs to know it, and everyone will know it, and everyone will get out there and fucking, you know. And it's like I really kind of admired that because I didn't kind of have that, and I didn't have that out and out not just confidence, but like this kind of true north, like, you know, determination where nothing will get in my way. I mean, I kind of did to a degree at the beginning. I remember having that meeting with my management saying like, you know, there are some people and I really want to stuff this band right up their ass. You know,
Mm.
it's a bit like I really want to show them with this band, but it's like, but at the same time, I think maybe just overall, perhaps I should have listened to the advice to believe in myself a bit more, maybe.
Yeah.
to push it to that next step, to be to be valid, to be worthy enough to feel like I should have could have earned that next step up. Perhaps that was something that held me back a bit.
Yeah, it's hard as a young person, isn't it? But yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, where can people see your stuff? Is it all via Instagram, really, the main hub of it all?
Yeah, basically we've got kind of Facebook and Instagram and stuff, but I think the boykillboyofficial.com is where we are trying to encourage everyone to go, and that will have, mailing list and direct links to everything and all platforms and where they can get the tickets. I think the pre-sale is the 25th of February, and then the main the main sale goes on at like the 27th, I think. Yeah.
Okay, nice one.
So let's
I'll
get
try
the
and
pre-sale. Yeah.
try and get down for it if I can. Sounds good.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch. We'll make sure you get in. Yeah, if you want to go, that'd be
Cheers,
great.
mate. All right, cheers for your time, Chris. Really appreciate that. Great
No,
episode.
mate, thanks for your time, man. I didn't realize this, we've had a long chat, haven't we?
Yeah, yeah, good 2 hours.
That's amazing. I've really like it's such a cathartic thing. Goes without saying, really, isn't it? But like, because I was saying, like, I have very rarely the opportunity to talk about these things. I don't ever want to be the guy that bangs on about that old band that he's in, and yet I seem to really enjoy it as well. Especially with someone like you, Harry, who you don't go into these things without some backup information, and you do your research and stuff, and that makes a hell of a difference. So I really appreciate it, Harry. Thank you. And
Nah, spot on, mate. Yeah.
you know,
Definitely think you should celebrate what you did. It's like, a lot of people would love to have done what you did. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully, I don't sound like too much of a kind of cheesy old git.
Nah, no, all, mate.
Looking back in hindsight.
Nah, nah.